Gentleman's time has expired. Now recognize the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Kinzinger, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for spending your morning, afternoon, and forever with us. I appreciate it. I've said this before. One of my concerns with this whole thing is, you know, we can argue the merits for or against net neutrality, and, you know, I have my position. But one of the biggest concerns is, and you 5 now, but 6 weren't necessarily privy to this discussion, but to me, it's just amazing, the whole idea that we're sitting here talking about something that I don't even think the FCC had a right really to do, that was outside of the venue, outside of the will of the body of the American people. I mean, last Congress, over 300 members of this body signed something opposing these rules. I heard the FCC commissioners talk about that they're pretty doggone sure, basically, that this is going to hold up in court. Yeah. Well, if you're not positive, why don't you come talk to us and we can talk about it. But, you know, so that's, I think with this whole discussion, again, talking about the merits, where it's good, where it's bad, the 10,000-foot overview concern I have is just the fact that we have regulatory bodies that are operating outside of the will of the House of Representatives, and that to me is unbelievable. That is not what was ever intended to happen. So I had to get that off my chest. Let me say to Dr. Kovacs, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If the current order, I know you've discussed this, but I want to ask this in this way. If the current order from the FEC were to be implemented, with the current lack of complete definitions in a lot of areas, in many of these aspects, do you believe that that lack of definitions in this current order would create the necessary certainty that broadband internet access providers will need to determine that long-term strategy?
I think it's going to take a long time to get to the point where we know what the definitions are, because it's going to be case by case as protests are filed and the FCC deals with them. So we have quite a while to go before we have certainty about what the rules are actually going to be.
So we don't even know in 5, 10, whatever, I'm just pulling those numbers out, we don't even necessarily know what this is all going to look like anyway. So this is all still subject.
It's going to be a multi-year process.
Right. Mr. DeReggi, I hope I'm saying that right. You guys have difficult names. You need an easier one like Kinzinger. I currently represent a rural district. It's fairly rural, and it's served by a lot of small companies like your own. But one of the things that I tend to note with consumers in these kinds of areas is that they choose, in many cases, small companies like yours so that they're able to pay for the services that they want to have in that area. The FCC order has a provision that mandates that every consumer be able to access every service on every device regardless of cost. Could you expound a bit on how that particular provision would impact your pricing plans, as well as what you think it would do to your ability to serve customers in areas like that?
Well, it would definitely force us to raise our prices in order to be able to do that. But it's also not physically capable of happening because the spectrum is not available to be able to fulfill that request.
So we're basically creating something, or something's being created that's just not even possible to follow through on anyway.
You're basically making me operate as a criminal because I can't comply.
Right. Okay. And, finally, Mr. Turner, just to be clear, yes or no is fine on this. Please, just yes or no. If the FCC loses in court, will you support Title II regulation of the Internet?
I support Title II regulation of Internet access, the transport segment of Internet access services today.
So the answer is yes.
The answer to,
okay.
You didn't ask the question the way I would answer, but yes, the answer on the connectivity side, not the access service side.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So basically a vote against this resolution is a vote for Title II regulation. I yield back. Thank you.
I wish